Hi guys. A lot of people ask me what I use for my recordings and what settings I use, etc. And so I thought I'd make a video basically explaining to you how I create the videos, etc. Um, when I am recording the desktop, like I'm recording now, I use a program called Debut Professional. As you can see, usually this would be minimized like so, and you would not be able to see it. And it basically is a program that will record the whole desktop or a portion of the desktop or one window, etc. It's completely up to you. It's very, very powerful, and it will record things as very high quality MP4s. There's a whole host of options, but I always record MP4s, and it records in a format that the Sony Vegas program understands perfectly. So that's how I do that. Now, to record games, I actually use two programs. The first one is Fraps. Now, I don't use this very often. I tend to use this if I'm doing very quick, very quick shots, or I need a very high quality shot, but I'm not doing much voiceover. And the reason I do this is the reason I don't use this when I'm doing voiceovers is it records all sound into one track. So it will record the Windows 7 sound and my microphone if I want it to, but it will combine them into one track. It's very high quality, but I cannot split the audio. Now, Fraps is a very good tool, and I use it quite a lot. However, it does hit the frame rate more than DXTory, which is the next tool I'm going to show you. And so I generally won't use it much anyway. There are a few games where I actually get better performance with Fraps, but not many. So generally speaking, I don't use this program for my Let's Plays. So the program I use the most is DXTory. And DXTory is a very powerful tool for recording games. It's got a lot of settings, and so for example on Skyrim I will show you the settings I use there. For the video, I actually use the DXTory video codec, the bog basic one, and I set it on the lowest quality and I do compress. Sometimes I do the medium quality, but again the file sizes are larger. So you know it does depend. I really don't notice that big a difference once I record it to YouTube, but there is a difference. But for the Let's Plays, it's probably not that big a deal. You can go higher qualities if you want. I record straight to AVI because I'm recording on a single SSD. I have a single SSD devoted just to that for my raw files. This is a single 240 gigabyte drive devoted just to the videos taken using this program. I generally record at 30 frames per second and at 100%, so I get full HD. The sound, I record the sound to one track and my microphone to another track. As you can see at the moment, I'm using a Creative SBX5. And the usefulness with that, of course, is that I can alter the volume of the game separately from the microphone, which is very useful. It also means I can edit the microphone frequencies to make it clearer without changing the game sound. That is very important. And I generally use this program to cap Skyrim's FPS at 60, and the reason for this is when recording it puts a lot more stress on my system, and it will drop to probably 35-40 frames a second at certain places. And when you switch from say 80 or 90 frames a second to 40, it's a very disturbing drop. You notice it a lot, whereas if you cap it at 60 and it goes from 60 to 40, it doesn't feel as bad. When I'm not recording, I play most of my games uncapped, and for example Skyrim will run happily at 80 or 90 frames a second and will usually never drop below about 60. I do have wait for available buffers so that I don't lose any frames, so the video footage has never got little delays, but that's about it. And I use two processing threads. I have tried other numbers and to be honest I don't notice any difference. Now once I've taken the video, there will be a lot of files here, and I can usually get about an hour, maybe a little bit more, seeing as I'm using low quality. But if I'm using medium quality, I get about an hour footage, and then I cut these files and I take them to my AVI folder and I copy them here to some folder. And as you can see, this is a 2 terabyte disk, and it has very little space free. This has a lot of clips. They're very, very large. So this is where I do. This is the drive I use just for working on the movies. Now I've just finished my Let's Play Fallout 3 Part 11 and transferred the footage into a folder over here. It was about an hour of gameplay. It took about 15 minutes to transfer all the files across. And now once I've got them here, I'm pretty much set up. And then I'm ready to edit the movie. And I usually make my movies with Vegas Movie Studio HD Platinum 11.0. Now I have several templates set up. So for example, I would then go along to the Let's Fallout, it's defaulting here now, Let's Play Fallout 3 template, and I would edit this. This is a pre-made template I've got, basically with the music set up, the tracks set up with different volumes. So for example, I add extra decibels to the voice, the music lowered, sound effects lowered, etc. And I have this which I edit and change for whichever I am doing. So this will be part 11, and then I need to come up with a clever title for the episode, and I can't quite remember what I was going to. Ah, yes, that's right. Nope, I won't spoil it. You've probably already seen the episode by now, 11. So I will play around with this, but then I will almost immediately save as, create a new folder, Let's Play Fallout 3 Part 11. So, yes, I've already created my template for 11. So now what I do is I basically just copy the required files. There are 3 of them. Usually what I do is I pause every now and again and stop the video and then start recording again. Usually I do it when things like sleeping. So if I'm sleeping for 24 hours, I'll stop the recording during then and start it again. And the advantage to this is it splits the files up into smaller chunks, and if I do have some problem, I don't lose as much footage. And then basically I drag these into Sony Vegas, and then I've got them ready to start editing. And the editing in Sony Vegas for my Let's Plays is relatively simple. It usually takes me, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes to get the video set up correctly and cut it, maybe cut out a few bits that I didn't like, or where, you know, if I've had to stop, press escape because someone's come in the room, one of my kids needs attention, I cut that out. You don't need a 3-minute break where I'm doing nothing. So I do all that sort of thing. It usually takes me about 10 minutes on my Let's Play because they're very simple. Things like the Skyrim mod sanctuary will take me several hours because I will have hundreds of clips and I will edit them, clip them, move them backwards and forwards, add special effects, etc. It's a completely different process that takes a lot longer. It's a 10-minute video and it might take me 6 hours, whereas these only take me probably about half an hour to an hour after I've played to get that set up. So now I've dragged all the tracks, basically 3 clips I've dragged them onto the timeline, and they're ready to edit. The first thing I'm going to do, and this is something, if you're using Sony Vegas and you didn't know about, this is a really important thing to do. I right click on each clip and hit properties, and I go to this, it defaults to smart resample. Change it to disable resample. Basically, if you leave it on smart resample, you'll get this slight ghosting when you move. So if you're getting ghosting on your videos and you've ever wondered why other people don't, it's that. Disable the resample. Just do that, and that should improve the quality of your videos so much. Then what I'll do is the obvious joins I'll take a look at. For example, here I cut whilst looting. Basically, someone came in and needed my attention, so the next time I looted something, I stopped the video, went out, sorted, came back, carried on, and normally I can merge this in a way so you don't actually notice the stop, or, you know, it's pretty small. So I'll be playing it like that, and then I'll just merge them together, and it'll seem pretty fluid. And there you go. Now, in this case, because I was there for a few seconds, I may actually cut it down a little bit just to see until you see as my mouse moves there. There it moves, so that's probably when I came back. If I get that in and then play it, it should almost, it's unnoticeable. You see, I actually almost don't need the merge. I'm going to do it because there was a fade on the text. So I do like this, and as you can see, that looked a lot more fluid. And it gets the illusion that I never left my seat, and I do that sort of thing on all the major breaks. As you can see on this one, I went for basically for some sleep, and then cut it so that you didn't get the entire lot. And then what I do is I basically merge it again so that there you go. You see it jumps, and you barely notice it, but it speeds this up a little bit. It's an extra 5 or 6 seconds that you guys just did not need to see, and that's it. And then at the end of the video, I usually put my to be continued, do a quick fade and a fade away there, something like this. Now it does vary. For example, I might want to clip it a little bit. I might want to take out some of the voice, but generally speaking, that's the process for getting started on my Let's Play videos. As you can see, I can get this done to the basic level in 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes. Get rid of the worst offending pauses. And if I've done this soon enough after, I might remember certain places where I stood still for too long in a conversation because I was getting a coffee. It doesn't happen very often, but it does, and I always remember to go back and just make sure I cut out the long pauses. Something else I always do is I always add a little brightness. See, there's brightness and contrast, brightness to my videos, about 3%, 4%, because when I encode to YouTube, darkness becomes a little harder to see, and the extra little bit of brightness makes everything a tiny bit easier when encoded without making it look too bright. I've experimented with color correction and all sorts of different things, and generally I've found it actually is not necessary. For the soundtracks, I might play around with the volume a little bit, boost my voice volume or reduce it depending on how I had my microphone set up, so I'll need to change that. But I also, if I go to the track FX, you'll notice under the track EQ, I'm reducing all the frequencies below 150. It can depend, sometimes it's like 120, and that gets rid of some of the sort of muddy noise that some of the microphones give. This microphone has way too much bass frequencies, so I reduce them here so you can see that. Basically, I have infinity on the gain, minus infinity, from about 150. And that's it. That's enough to make my microphone sound pretty clean. For the music, I leave it completely flat, same as the game sound usually. I've played around with different settings, and honestly, I generally don't find I need it. And so once I've got everything edited, set up how I want, changed the sound, etc., it's a good idea to save it. I have problems with Sony Vegas crashing on me. It's probably my machine and not Sony Vegas's fault. And so then I come to render it. Now, one of the things I have found is if I go to render as, I've got a 50% chance of it crashing during the movie render process, and seeing as the movie render process takes 2 to 3 hours, that is very frustrating. If you don't have problems with it, then that's how you should do it. But if you are having that sort of a problem every now and again, here's a couple of tricks you might want to try. If you do render to new track, you can, generally I try to render it wherever it is I'm supposed to be rendering it. Call it what I'm going to call it. Let's play Fallout 3.11. And I always pick Sony AVC MBC, as you can see, this one. that's the one I picked. Some people swear by several other codecs, including the I can't remember what it's called actually. I'll try and post a link if I remember what it's called. There's a very high quality codec, but I have found the quality and the speed I encode and the stability is much better if I use this one. That's just me. The template I use is this. It's a custom template. AVC, as you can see, all of these things that I will bring to your attention is for my Let's Play, I use about 15 megabits per second. It's completely overkill. YouTube, I think, maxes at 6, so whatever you upload gets reduced. I'm just slightly paranoid and like to give YouTube as good a quality file as possible for them to play with. When I'm doing my Skyrim Mod Sanctuary type videos, my 10-minute, 15-minute videos, I encode those to 26 megabits per second. And if in fact it's a short movie, if I'm only doing 20-25 minutes, I may do that. For a longer Let's Play, I do about 15. That's just to keep the file size a little lower so it takes less time to upload. So this is a Let's Play. It's approximately 50 minutes. Gonna use 15 megabits per second. But you'll also notice I'm using render using CPU only. Usually it's automatic. I get crashes if I use automatic. I'm assuming my system just doesn't like using the GPU, which is a shame because that will render faster. But for me, render using CPU only, a lot more stable. For the audio, I just use AAC 44,100, 192,000 bitrate, and stereo. And I include the audio. For the system, I always pick MP4 format. There are several options. I always pick MP4 format, and I use best rendering quality. And that's it. If you're wondering which template it was, as some people are, it's based upon the HD, here we go, I think it's the HD 1920 times 1080 60p template. But as I said, I've reduced the frame rate to 30 frames a second and made it CPU only. So I believe that's the correct one. Yes. But again, I've saved this custom one because I use it over and over again. Then I would click save, and it will take anything from 2 to 3 hours. Usually I do something else. I cannot use the machine during that period. I have a powerful machine, quad core i7 920. It's not the most powerful machine, but it's pretty good, and it will render this fairly quickly. But if I try and play a game, even though it's got a lot of cores and I can hyperthread, it's just not worth it. It makes everything go slow in game. So generally speaking, that's 3 hours where my machine cannot be used for playing or making anything else, which is annoying, of course. One of my plans is to actually build 2 separate machines, one for gaming and one for making videos. That way I will be able to produce videos a little faster. However, that's for another time. And so that is basically how I make these movies. Other tools I use something called YTD Video Downloader. This allows me to download YouTube clips if the authors have allowed you to do that, and then I can use them in mine to highlight other people's videos. If you're going to do that, be careful. Do remember you need to use it under fair use, so don't just be downloading their clips and showing them in their entirety. I might download another YouTuber's mod review, and I'll play, say, 10 seconds, 30 seconds of it whilst giving them a shout out. So obviously in that particular case I'm covered under fair use, not to mention the fact that I'm generally telling people to go and visit them, so on the whole they're not going to accuse me of stealing their material. But be careful if you're going to do that and then post your videos to YouTube. Read the rules on that. And oh yeah, I actually, believe it or not, use the basic Windows sound recorder every now and again. I really should actually get a better program for recording sound, because it's a diabolically not difficult tool, but it's an inconvenient tool. It's not easy to set up different places to save things, etc. So yeah, I use that. I don't recommend it. If anyone else actually has a better suggestion, I'm all ears. The ones I've tried are fairly good, but still don't quite do what I need it to do. And lastly, people probably are going to ask about my desktop because it's looking a bit neater now that I've reinstalled. I'm using something called Fences. If I double click my system, it actually brings back a lot of other things that I generally hide when doing the videos now. This is where I dump stuff. This is all the stuff when I'm working on mods or etc. So this links to where I do all my modding work. And as you can see, I've just been dumping some random stuff on my desktop while I look at things, and then when I double click, they disappear. These fences actually are little bordered areas that let me have, and I can drag them out if I want to see everything that's in it, and then work on them, and then slide them away and hide them. So it's actually a very useful little program. It's called Fences. Google it. Okay guys, well I hope that explained what I do when I make these videos, at least the Let's Play videos. Generally from starting to play, to copying the files, editing them, and getting everything the way I want it to be, probably takes about 3 hours per Let's Play video. Maybe a little less, maybe 2 hours. It depends on how smoothly things go. And then I generally have to leave my machine for another 2 hours doing its thing, and once it's finished I then need to upload to YouTube, and depending on the link I have, that can take anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours, 3 hours, even longer sometimes. I have a separate laptop that I upload from, so that I can upload without having a browser open. One of the things that I have found is if I have a browser open, especially Chrome, games like Skyrim are a little less stable. It's probably because Chrome does have a nasty habit of spawning lots of processes. So generally I like to close things down while I'm playing, so I upload from another machine. And that is about it, I believe. So anyway, I hope that helped.